All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to YouTube. एक बंदा देख रहा होगा ये वीडियो. Anyway, yeah, it's been a month since I've done anything on YouTube. I wanted to stream today, but it didn't happen. Then I was like, let's at least make a video, kind of get back in the groove. That didn't happen. Then I was going to sleep, and then suddenly chul mach gayi कि oh, this video बना देते जल्दी से. It's like about almost one. So like I'll try to keep this video short, please, भाई. मतलब just don't yap so much. But anyway, there are a lot of points to cover, which let's just get into it. Also, just few things I realized. When it's like when I'm recording a video, also if I just stutter beach mein, it's like almost one, so I should be sleeping. So like मजाक उड़ा लो अगर उड़ा. Anyway, that's not the point. Just few things I realized when I'm recording a video. In general, I keep the channel ka vibe in English. Not that it really matters, but when I'm recording a video, I'll kind of keep it more English leaning. When I'm streaming, जो भी vibe चल रही है, I'll kind of go with that. But anyway, without any further ado, let's get into it and let's show you stuff. So yeah, the main thing I want to cover for today is like some more advanced React. Like it's in the video title, like thoda advanced React cheese ho gayi, and then Docker. Yes, I have written down the topics because I don't want to yap too much, and if I'm going to be yapping, at least जो main मुद्दा है उस पे मैं yap करूँ. Anyway, so one is a few more advanced React stuff, and then Docker, and just like February and March का क्या plan है. React has a lot of points to cover, so we'll get to that later. I'll first go through Docker and CI/CD stuff. Yeah, so I learned Docker. Yeah, that's basically it, which is pretty cool. And this is like a very simple Docker file I wanted to implement. I think Memer is going to be that project where I'm going to be just implementing new patterns I see when it comes to React or just this stuff in general. It's a very simple Docker file, not too fancy. App अपना बना रहे हो, सब उसमें डाल रहे हो. Um, very this is to generate the schema and all. But this is more of like a development thing because this specific project is hosted on Vercel, so you don't really need to kind of do any continuous deployment here. But I have added a GitHub workflow which does continuous integration, which is a very fancy term for build check kar lo. But this is pretty cool. I think like I realized the power of GitHub workflows because without this, I've been seeing कि कितना not with the personal project but just in general काम में कि like if you do not have this setup, you could lose so much time that you don't even know you're losing, and you're like, हाँ भाई ठीक है चलता है. But when you have this setup, you know where you're going wrong, और मतलब it just saves you a lot of time. So I think this is a good win in general, and this is very cool, right? Like you can specify the action जहाँ पे you want to run this particular thing workflow जो है. इसमें whenever you open a pull request to the main branch, you're basically checking. In this thing, I'm specifically checking the build. And yeah, these are the steps. You check out your code, set up Node because you're using Node here, and you require like whatever npm in general. If this was a Go project, you would do a setup Go action. So that's like GitHub gives you a lot of things up end say. Even if like recently I have to do like set up a Git workflow to do continuous deployment to GCP. So उसमें like Google Cloud के काफी actions है that like are present. So that's pretty handy. And just this whole thing in general is pretty cool. And yeah, I'm just linting. Like this is something which I required for the build process for this particular thing. I think this is more of an upload thing, not like a specific JavaScript or a GitHub action thing. What did? But anyway, last time I'm just taking the build, and in case it throws an error, then PR में पता चल जाता है कि भाई error है, देख लो क्या है. And this is specifically for CI, which I'll show you a small cool thing over here. Yeah, this is from that particular workflow. If I change this, like if I make a continuous deployment workflow and add a specific link in Markdown here, then it will show like CD passing something. So that's pretty cool. That's for Docker. And I think one more thing is key. I learned about Docker Compose and Kubernetes. And Kubernetes, like I do have to kind of try that out. But otherwise, Docker Compose I find pretty cool. I was confused between the two beach. I was like, do you use Kubernetes? Wow. But like, do you use like a mix of Compose and Kubernetes? Anyway, whatever. But I was confused between if you use Docker Compose to spin up these different जो तुम्हारे containers होते हैं in like production, right? And like जो भी कहाँ पे भी तुम host कर रहे हो. Turns out no, Docker Compose is mainly for like local development. If you have to spin up multiple containers, like locally for development, right? For example, Redis कर दिया एक local basic अपना Postgres database locally तुमने कर दिया, stuff like that. Different containers where you have to basically set up different containers in one project simultaneously. So yeah, that's for Docker Compose. Kubernetes is a container orchestration tool, which is very fancy words. I'm not gonna lie, but sounds pretty cool. And I think I do have to kind of learn that. So that's pretty like that's going to be pretty interesting. Otherwise, Docker itself, I really like it. I think I'll just keep adding it in everything that I use. So yeah, let's see that. That's for Docker and CI/CD. Otherwise, yes, React. Coming to the React part. Oh my God, this is going to take a while. It's not going to be a short video. I'm just realizing that. Anyway, so I learned a lot of React stuff, like a lot of React stuff, and like I mean a lot of React stuff. It turns out you work on something for a good amount of time, you think you know it, you don't know it. I had such a realization कि भाई मेरे को कितना और सीखना है React में, and I think it's very good that I'm learning these things because like I can feel myself getting smarter in React and going from whatever level I was in to easily like that getting to that senior kind of thinking mindset, which I think is a bit too soon to call myself very soon. भाई वो तो कहा मतलब. But like you're getting there, you're learning these new things. I think you're forced to kind of um, implement things which you're like, oh, this is how it's done, whatever, and whatnot. So especially this open source code base that I'm contributing to, it's called On Time, and my God, that one repository has got me to learn so many things. Like I cannot be more thankful for that. Just whole product repository, the people. Huge shout out to On Time in general. So, क्या कहते हैं? Like part of this advanced React stuff, I'll just share my screen, show stuff over. Yeah, now the Docker file for me, man. Anyway, coming here. Okay, so one of the things I had to implement in this on-time thing was basically table navigation on one of the features called Q Sheet, and we're using TanStack table over there, so that's pretty fun. And I will tell you a point about TanStack table later, but not right now. So anyway, उसमें table navigation करना था, and I used a specific library. It's called TableNav at React. Yeah, pretty nice library. It's here in case someone didn't find out. Anyway, so it gives you a lot of handy stuff. It gives you the table listeners, and then uske upar there's a key down and a key up listener that the library gives us. You attach it to the table itself. Where is it? Yeah, you attach it to the table itself, and whenever you're kind of moving around, key down and key up, it basically perform calls the callback, which is responsible for those particular events. So that's been pretty fun. The advanced React stuff here was key. This would be very simple if it was like a normal table, but there's a lot of changes, not a lot of changes, but like just a lot of features inside the table itself which have been implemented from beforehand. So there's different types of blocks. For example, there's I'll maybe someday, like maybe on stream or I don't know, some recording show key what I'm talking about exactly, but there's an event row, there's a delay row, and these rows basically kind of introduce new behaviors into the table itself. So kind of adjusting your library to work with these behaviors has been like that's been pretty interesting. What am I talking about? Let me give you an example. For example, I think I'll go to single line cell color. Yeah. Okay. Take this component. इसमें, yeah, you see this part. Focus on parent element. So what was happening was key in the table. If you're going through a normal cell, you can you as long as your focus is on the table, you can move around with your keyboard navigation to children. But when you stumble across an input field and you you submit that input, it loses focus from the table. Now, after trying a lot, and I'm not sure what exactly the issue came about, but basically you're losing focus from the table itself. So what we've done is key, and shout out to Carlos for this, where he kind of showed this approach. Where he was like, why don't we call the parent element, like why don't we focus on the parent element and not the input itself maybe. So your focus is on the TD wala jo apna element hai. If it's an input, it depends on like which kind of thing you're working with in this thing. But anyway, so that kind of held it held the focus on the table after you submitted input. Where it got interesting was time input. Okay, so if you go here, I think it's this. So this, yeah. As you can see, depending on if we're editing or not, we're rendering two components, right? Like conditionally. One is the single line cell, which I just showed you, which shows the, like, you have to focus on the parent element once you've submitted a value. So that same logic applies here. But this text like input, you see, the issue that was happening was when you like come across a time input, and then you, let's say, input a value and then submit ho jata hai whatnot ये सब करके, you would lose the focus either way, even though तुमने single line cell में define करा कि भाई मत करो focus lose करके. And turns out that was happening was because this condition itself कि once you've stopped editing it, this is being rendered, and because this is being rendered, like you are not focusing on the, like, first it's re-rendering. Secondly, तुम्हारा जो initial वो था, what do you say, the parent element पे जो focus था in the single line cell, that was being lost because of this re-render. So I was like, oh, once I figured this out, I was like, okay, now how do you handle this? So turns out, you had to pass in a ref over here also, and once you come here, yeah, this hook is that advanced React hook I'm talking about. Because turns out you can basically define methods on a ref that you pass to this particular hook. So from that parent element जो है हमारा time input, I'm passing in the text ref over here, and उस पे I'm defining a method called focus parent element, which basically focuses back on the parent element after you have submitted a value, and then the is editing thing becomes false, and this particular component renders. So figuring this out was like super interesting. I'm going to use this, अगर कोई पूछेगा tell me a hard problem you worked on, I'm going to be like, bro, इस पे काम करा है, देख लो तुम. So yeah, that was there. I'm actually kind of really happy with like my approach over here, because considering this is like my first proper open source code base that I'm contributing to, doing like major changes. Initially, I was like, should I do it? Should I not do it? But I think the focus was now on solving the problem rather than कि ओ भाई मतलब ज़्यादा चेंज नहीं करते. And I think like in general, just writing good code and making the thing work and like giving good user experience is like the main focus. So like in that sense, I'm pretty happy about this. And there's like a lot of like things to handle over here also. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. That's the reminder thing, reminder application. Every 20 minute मेरे को stand up के लिए बोलता है, which after the video I'm going to sleep off, so I'll stand up anyway. कोई पता चला बोलेगा कि भाई खड़े क्यों नहीं हो तुम. Anyway, so this is pretty cool. This is the main kind of thing I want to go about. What else? Oh yeah, there was this one thing where I had to work with tan stack table, but I had to do like server side filtering and pagination. So that was very interesting. मतलब वो तो आप like भाई ये तो काफी interesting है. And उसमें basically you had to kind of manually give in state to the tan stack table thing, component hook, जो भी बोलो भाई. But basically you have to manually give in state कि भाई this is what I'm going to be sending you like from the server. And उसके बाद like lot of things where like the number of pages and whatnot, total items that are there, उसके हिसाब से then kind of however tan stack table handles it. And tan stack table is very generous in terms of like handling data on the client side itself. So server side pagination and like whatever this handling things from the server side was very interesting, because like when you have such a powerful client side just tool library in general, you don't think about like पहले जमाने में server side चीजें ही होते थे. And like that kind of just blew my mind, that you can do that just in general. So yeah, a lot of like something got me to work over there, and I was like, "Wait, this is very interesting." So I was pretty happy about that. That is one. What else I had to talk about? Oh yeah, I did have like one meeting where basically like the same thing जहाँ पे tan stack table का use करना पड़ा, and the server side filtering and pagination, I had used Prisma. And for the filtering part, you have to write like a where clause, right? And considering it's like dynamic filtering in some sense, or in that case, I kind of defined predefined filters. But to even know which predefined filter the user has to choose, uspe you had to kind of like navigate through a where clause. So it was like a lot of, I used like a reduce method over there, but there's different ways to approach it. Point is कि उसमें in that meeting, the other person, they were like कि, oh, if you actually kind of go through this particular thing in TypeScript, you'll see कि it will throw an error. But you would not see this happen otherwise, and like runtime pe this error would show up. So he showed me ki like if you use the satisfies wala thing in TypeScript, then you can catch that in build time itself. And I was like, bhai, I had zero idea about this, and I'm probably going to be using this everywhere. So that was pretty interesting, and like I really liked, I found out that way कि भाई ऐसे like this is something that could happen. So that was like a very good learning. I in fact implemented the same thing in one of the next things like I wanted to kind of make, obviously like a file tree, and usme like I'll probably stream that part later. So anyway, that was pretty interesting. TypeScript can. Yes, I think we have covered the most important part. I was showing use imperative handle wala hook, right? Yeah, I will just go through the documentation. Also, React docs are very underrated. Like if in case someone has not gone through the docs, this is very like all. Look at all these hooks, bro. बहुत मस्त है ये. Use layout effect. I think we covered in the last video. You know, like a lot of these things. Oh, use ref. Oh my god, I've been using use ref काफी these days. I love it. Finally, I think I understand use ref. Like when I started using it, like बहुत पहले I was like ये क्या है मुझे कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा. But now I think I'm getting it, and I think it's an amazing hook. Now I'm using it everywhere, which is not a good idea. I think I'm kidding. I'm not using it everywhere. There is also like some note that shows up. You should not use like a lot of refs in a place, but avoiding recreating the ref contents. कहीं पे तो note था. I don't remember. There was some note that you should not use too many refs also. I think it was in use imperative handle only. Was it here? Uh, uh-huh. Uh-huh. I remember. कहीं तो पढ़ा था. Yeah. Do not overuse refs. देखो, I read the docs, bro. Anyway, so this basically use imperative handle. That to talk more about it, it helps you kind of, you know, not lift state up in React, which is like the reactive way of thinking things. Right? अगर कुछ चाहिए तुम्हें, then like state ऊपर फेंक दो नहीं, but like whatever, you have to like lift state up. But that's not always like a good idea, or you do not want to do that. Or sometimes it's like the code base hai, it's done in a way where it is not ideal. Like it's just not like a solution to lift state up. So something like this is very handy, especially like जो अभी दिखाया on time पे कि you're like I want to basically focus on that particular thing after you've submitted. So I'll pass in this ref, focus, call this method which is doing this particular thing. So very impressive hook, and I'm very glad to know ki like I got to use it, and like the PR is still there. There's a few changes we have to kind of keep track of, but once that is merged, pretty cool. And क्या कहते हैं, I'm learning a lot from on time का जो code base है. In fact, I have to ask the maintainer a lot of questions ki like how are you doing this, what is this, why are you doing this, and there's a lot of interesting things in that code base. So I'm have to prepare like a list of questions. I was like, I'm gonna ask a lot of stupid questions. So just heads up. And he was like more than happy. So I'm very thankful about that. But yeah, that was mainly for React. Okay, 18 minutes, bro. I still have to like cover a few more things. So this is gonna be insane. I really hope I get up on time. Anyway, yeah. So February has been a hectic month. It's still gonna be hectic, and like there's a lot more projects to kind of not projects, but things to kind of finish. It's been full of deadlines, which has not been easy, but I think it's also been fun because like well, when you enjoy programming and you get to program stuff, you're like, how do I kind of make things better? I have to do this. I have to do this particular thing, and then implement. Karna. I think that it's been a fun month, a hectic month, but a fun month. So yeah, the one thing I want to finish in February, two things, three things actually. Oh my god, I didn't forgot about the landing page thing, bro. My bad. So I made a landing page because I wanted to learn how to make a landing page. Um, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I saw a video for this, and like, technically this is normal low screen में 120% होता है. But yeah, this is pretty cool, right? Basically, I want to learn how to make like an I still have to like इसको user की जगह मैं नाम दे दूंगा. But I made this kind of thing. I like looked at a video, like, how do you make this thing? And then I'm pretty happy about it because I really wanted to kind of get better at the designing part of React, and now I have like a gist key. Oh, this is how you kind of mentally go about it. So that was pretty fun. And क्या कहते हैं, that was one of the things in February कि ये खत्म करना है, and this week also. One more thing is in February, I want to finish making a RAG application, which is kind of delving into AI stuff. करके. There's a Paul Graham joke right there, but anyway, क्या कहते हैं? There's a RAG application basically I want to finish. For that, I'm going to take two approaches. I'm first going to make like a chota mini project to kind of see how it works with like on an interface level because I tried out making like just a Node.js script key with LangChain key, let's say give it a site ka link, it pulls in the content, like basically scrapes the website, and then uski basis pe, splits it in chunks and then creates vector embeddings, puts it in like Pinecone, and then you can basically ask it questions. So while that part is done, I want to make it like a proper एक requirement है कि भाई ऐसा application बनाना है. We kind of understand what's happening in general, and I think AI is pretty fun, especially with this AI agents things that's coming up. मेरा goal था कि AI 2025 में करना है. So for February, I want to complete a RAG application उसके लिए, and then there is some just work stuff in general वो खत्म करना है, that is there. For March, I want to do two things. One is I want to make an AI agent, which I probably will be doing on stream. The second thing I probably will also be doing on stream is to make a newsletter application, which is basically like I want to build something जो मतलब kind of pushes me to kind of use more advanced stuff. So for example, um, like in this particular thing, I'm thinking on the back end. एक तो the thing with is कि I've been using Next.js a lot, right? Which is not a bad like Next.js is pretty cool. But what Next.js kind of limits you is to take control of full, front end, back end, whatnot. And if someone raised this point like a few months back, I would have been like, bro, कौन सा control चाहिए? Next.js is great. Use Next.js. But now I think I realized what they were saying. कि like, oh, you do have more control on backend, and now I think it really depends on the project or the requirement. जो भी है. Like if it's an MVP, Next.js is probably great. If you're kind of thinking of like making something scalable, probably having a better control of the backend and front end, अलग से, it's a good idea. But takes you experiences to realize that even though it's like common knowledge or some maybe I don't know. So anyway, with the newsletter application का idea is कि on the front, I was first thinking Next.js front end कर लेते हैं just like have a separate backend, but I'm thinking let's do it with React only, and then maybe use StanStack. Let's see, I'm not too sure. I was thinking Next.js originally because of like authentication के लिए Clerk वगैरह use कर लेंगे, but let's see, we'll decide that later. The main point for making this newsletter application thing is one is I wanted to play around with Node Mailer because I've done that at work and I was like I would really want to kind of do it from scratch. कि इसको कैसे करते हैं. So that is one reason I wanted to make this, and then second is कि use design patterns on the back end जो मतलब इतनी बार दो तीन बार तो बोल दिया वीडियो में कि whatever repository pattern what not करके. I did see a post limit on Twitter which I think it's like the idea is what do you say, taken from Java, where basically you make a singleton class, and uske baad, for example, you extend that class or you implement that class. Is it implement or extend? Sorry, you extend that class. I think implement is you implement the interface, but I think you extend that class. Ki, haan, bhai. I'll have to check if it's implement or extend. I think it's extend. But yeah, basically, for example, if you're making like a controller for or like a service layer for something, you would implement and you wanted to use this, singleton pattern, whatnot. So you would extend singleton wala class jo hai. So stuff like that I want to implement. And then I did implement it pehle, but like I think I want to do it on stream and like have it like a public thing. That is there. Also try out backend stuff, which is like batching. For example, if you have like 100 users, you can't just await to be like कि bro सबको भेज दो मैं रुक जाऊंगा. Probably not a good idea. You want to batch it up, कि like ठीक है पहले 10 को भेजा 10 को भेजा 10 को भेजा ऐसे करके, less load on the server and whatnot. And over here I was thinking कि what if we take it up a notch and then write the mailing service itself, like the newsletters, like you send a mail, right? So what if you write that mailing service either in Go, or maybe make the main backend in Go and then the mailing service in like Node or Express or something. But I'll probably make it in Go. But like this is like a microservices concept, right? Then microservices have be like you get experienced. So stuff like that. Let's see. Well, let's figure it out. उसका तो मतलब आराम से करेंगे. But these are the main two things I want to complete in March, which is the AI agent and this newsletter thing. And I was like, one thing I realized ki it's better to make fewer projects for learning, but complete them, you know. And like at least this is my that like मेरे में ये फेस चल रहा है कि एक दो ही चीज बनाओ बट उसको अच्छी तरह बनाओ बिकॉज when you make it polished and all then उसमें भी also you learn a lot of things, you know. Otherwise पहले क्या होता है I learned the main thing और ठीक है अब हो गया next repository whatever. um, so yeah, that was going on a lot coffee, but I think for 2025 I want to make less projects but make them proper, like you know, kind of really kind of push it to the end, be like okay, this is now I'm happy with this karke make a base implementation and then start like what do you say, kind of brushing things up, refactoring things, making it good and all. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think by 25 minutes, and I'm still gonna be like, "Ki, oh, 2 minute और बकवास करो, whatnot." Anyway, I'm gonna sleep. काफी time हो गया. But yeah, that's been like a kind of huge update that's been happening. You know, I'm looking forward to streaming again, and there's a lot of cool stuff to build. So let's see. Stream pay. I also want to like read a few articles. I'll maybe do that in my own time, not on stream. But there's a good article by Anthropic. ये भी दिखा देते हैं. चलो इतना कर ही लिया तो 5-6 चीज़ और कर लेते हैं. हाँ. Oh no, don't stay on this page. Open a new page. My word. But yeah, for building agents, apparently Anthropic made this. Wasn't that 19 for a second? Okay, interesting. But yeah, building effective agents by Anthropic. You know, I you might have heard of Anthropic, Claude. Anyway, so I want to read this article. This is like pretty interesting. They also recently released a video where they were saying tips to build effective AI agents. I have to watch that. For this RAG thing, I wanted to read this particular article, जो है semantic search and RAG basically, which turns out ki these are both different things, but you can kind of combine them to really kind of get it like the best outcome. So yeah, something like this, you know. Um, so yeah, we're gonna be doing stuff like that. And yeah, this article I'm actually very like interested to read basically. And like, what is this? What is orchestrator's workers? I have zero idea, but I want to know, what it is. A synthesizer, kya hai, whatever. The main thing with AI agents is कि whatever workflow अभी तक AI का है, it's the same workflow, but agents me you're giving it tools to basically do like, for example, function calling something. I think I saw recently where you define specific functions and you tell the LLM key call this function at a particular thing, which I think technically that becomes the tool itself. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to read this particular article and just I think like there are a lot of articles that I do want to read. So yeah, just pretty cool stuff. Prompt engineering or tools, whatnot. Like just super interesting stuff, dude. And I think kind of taking your time with it. And this is where the whole building less part comes. You build less things, but in those less things, you do so much कि मतलब कमी ना लगे. Anyway, that's a lot. I don't think anyone's going to watch it. Anyway, मैं तो अभी post कर रहा हूँ मेरे को क्या. चलो, good night, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you say, whatever. चलो, bye.